This is the Microschool Minute, your weekly dose of microschooling news and events.
In this week's edition of the Microschool Minute, the significant expansion of school choice options continues, primarily through educational savings accounts and vouchers, and the resultant shifts in enrollment from public to private and alternative schooling. This trend is fueled by a combination of parental dissatisfaction with traditional public schools and a political push towards privatization. The expansion of school choice is sparking intense debates about the role of public schools, their funding, accountability, and whether private options serve the public good or contribute to social fragmentation and inequality. The political landscape plays a major role as well, with partisan divides shaping policy and funding decisions related to education. The flow of public funds to private entities is a major point of contention, as is the potential impact of public school budgets and equity. The driving force behind the shift towards school choice is parents' desire for more adaptable and personalized learning environments for their children, leading to growth in homeschooling, microschooling, and other alternative trends. This discussion comes on the heels of National School Choice Week, happening from January 26th through February 1st. This is a week-long celebration of school choice in the United States. There will be more than 27,000 events and activities nationwide celebrating educational opportunity. Some of the highlights include the Unbundled Expo in Arizona. This expo, scheduled for January 31st, will help parents explore the many providers and services available through Empowerment Scholarship accounts. In North Dakota, the state will host 58 events as a part of over 27,000 celebrations nationwide for the week's 15th anniversary. January 25th marks the date for the School Info Fair in Little Rock, Arkansas. This event will feature dozens of vendors including school districts, public charter schools, private schools, and microschools. School choice allows families to select the learning environment that works best for their children. With options expanding in many places, parents are better positioned than ever to find the place where their children will learn, thrive, and succeed. The new Trump administration is expected to endorse and expand education privatization. The Educational Choice for Children Act of 2024, ECCA, could be reintroduced, a program that would allow taxpayers to donate money to scholarship-granting organizations that award vouchers to families. The ECCA would have a volume cap over time. For each year that 90% of the $5 billion is used, the following year would see the cap increase to 105% of the previous year's amount. Philosopher Benjamin Barber is quoted, "Through vouchers, we are able as individuals through private choosing to shape institutions and policies that are useful to our own interest, but corrupting the public goods that give private choosing its meaning." On the other hand, economist Joseph Stiglitz discusses the social contract, saying, "Only through collective action, through government, can we achieve a balance of freedoms." Incorporating a multilingual learner's home language can improve reading comprehension and help them to feel welcome and accepted. According to Pamela Mora, a special education doctoral student at Michigan State, it's important to continually advocate for the students' needs, their services, and continually monitor their progress to adjust instruction as needed. Educators are advised to avoid correcting a multilingual learner's English dialect or accent, and to avoid using slang words and words with double meanings. Teachers should instead seek support if reading comprehension issues are noticed, as they may not be due to English language learning. 6 out of 10 parents considered switching their child's school in the last year. Smaller counties are gaining population, reflecting a shift in families' priorities regarding education. Declining public school enrollment, such as the 6.5% drop in Hawaii, shows a need for adaptable options. Charter school enrollment is growing, and homeschooling remains one of the fastest growing models. A bipartisan bill in Maine would allow public school transfer agreements to automatically renew, easing the process for families. The bill allows for the superintendent to deny the renewal if a student has irregular attendance, is disruptive, or isn't using best efforts. Another bill would create HOPE accounts that allow parents of homeschooled and private school students to access 90% of the per-pupil funding that would typically go to public schools. These funds could be used for a variety of educational expenses. A recent poll showed that ESAs are the second most popular form of school choice nationwide, with 63% support among Americans and 71% among K-12 parents. A similar bill in Wyoming aims to create a universal school voucher program, the Wyoming Freedom Scholarship Act. The program would offer up to $7,000 per student for non-public school cost, regardless of family need. It would remove requirements for student testing and provider certification. The Wyoming Education Association cited that the bill does not fail in measurements of equity, cost, administrative feasibility, and effectiveness. Proponents say it empowers parents, while opponents worry about accountability and misuse of public funds. Key Tennessee Republicans are softening their opposition to school vouchers due to a special session and changes to the ESA program. The new ESA provision guarantees local public schools' funding levels will not decrease year over year. Governor Lee called a special session to focus on tweaked voucher legislation. Some speculate disaster relief and voucher legislation may be linked. A new proposal includes $7,000 vouchers for 20,000 students. The first 10,000 are for low-income families, and the remaining for any student across Tennessee. The bill guarantees state funding for offset enrollment drops, offers a teacher bonus, and establishes a new funding source for school building maintenance. Current vouchers in Tennessee are worth $9,000 annually, but have only been implemented in 3 counties with over 3,000 students enrolled. Opponents argue that vouchers divert critical public funds and that the only choice empowered by vouchers is for private schools. Alternative education has nearly tripled in South Dakota in the last decade. Governor Nome wants to create ESAs that provide about $3,000 per student. Some school districts are cooperating with homeschooling families through hybrid arrangements, including shared classes and extracurriculars. One student, Josie, likes the routine of public school and spending time with friends. Homeschooling allows her to learn at her own pace. The Harrisburg School District's personalized learning model is an example of innovation. A teacher in the Harrisburg district said she'd never go back to traditional teaching because she feels less frustration and burnout working with students individually. The superintendent said public education is meant to serve all children in a district, not just full-time students. Meade School District now has a pilot program of online learning with about 20 students enrolled. Currently, there's not enough consensus within the Mississippi legislature to pass a universal school choice bill, despite GOP support for a pro-school choice agenda. The House Speaker is trying to get parents some meaningful choice when they are stuck in zip codes where they have no choice for whatever reason. The House Education Chairman needs data to see how a program spending public money to private schools would work. The Senate Education Chairman and Mississippi State Superintendent oppose expanding school choice. But a poll conducted by the House Speaker's office found that 2% of state voters thought that school choice was a major priority, and only 2.5% of Republicans identified it as a priority. Opponents cite a lack of accountability in private schools and say that most private school programs don't have accountability models to measure students' performance. The Texas Senate proposed to vote to provide families with $10,000 per student for private school tuition and other expenses. Students with disabilities would receive $11,500, and homeschooling families would receive at least $2,000. The bill would prioritize students in low-income households and children with disabilities. Private schools would not be required to follow federal and state laws regarding special education as well. The Senate in Texas wants to also increase teacher pay by $4,000 with an additional $6,000 bump for teachers in rural areas. Texas Public Policy Foundation said the Senate bill would create the largest ESA program in the nation. Concerns were raised that most low-income families will not be able to afford the gap in tuition, and that the bill will not help special education students since there are few private schools with the specialized services that these children need. But at this moment, the House and Senate have both set aside $1 billion for these potential ESA programs. Penny Schwinn has been nominated for Deputy Secretary of Education under Linda McMahon as Secretary. Schwinn has a history of controversy, including multi-million-dollar no-bid contracts with her husband's employer. Next, we turn to Brooklyn, Arkansas, home of Acres Microschool, where students learn by doing and pursue what matters to them. Founder Lauren McDaniel Carter, an experienced educator with deep Arkansas roots, is building a community where students develop critical thinking skills. Acres' mission is to empower students to not just exist in the world, but to shape it. Keep up the great work. If you know of a microschool that deserves a shout out, drop a comment and let us know about the work they're doing. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Microschool Minute, your weekly review of microschooling news and events. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to support us, consider leaving a review. Until next week, happy microschooling.